December 4, 2005. Mohali, Punjab, India. The night was chilly. The streets of the residential area of Sector 69 gradually quieted down after dinner. A middle-aged man and his wife leisurely walked along the familiar road in front of their house, a habit they had every night to digest their food and relieve stress. But then, 3 loud gunshots tore through the night. Blood flowed. The wife stood still, her eyes wide open. The husband collapsed on the sidewalk. When the neighbors came running, they did not know that this moment was the beginning of a tragedy that would last for more than a decade. A case whose mastermind was none other than the person who shared the same bed. And behind this death, there was a bloody story of forbidden love, betrayal, greed, and conspiracies that had been nurtured for years in the dark. The case of Sukhwinderjit Singh, an IT engineer, a model husband, a devoted father, shook the whole city. Let's take a closer look at this case right now. Sukhwinderjit Singh, affectionately known as Suki, is a calm, educated, and principled man. He works in the IT industry at a foreign-invested construction company called Cork City, a symbol of modern development in Mohali City in the 2000s. The son of Inderjit Singh, a retired chief engineer, Sukhwinder grew up in a family of status and standards. He was raised with the expectation that he would one day bring honor to the family, and indeed he lived up to it. Diligent, successful, and above all, moral. Although he was an introvert, he always held a high sense of responsibility towards his family. In 1999, as arranged by his family, Sukhwinder married a young girl named Neki Nalwa, a name considered well-matched coming from a wealthy and prestigious family in Amritsar. Neki is the daughter of Kushaldeep Singh Nalwa, a prominent businessman. Her family is said to be descended from Hari Singh Nalwa, a famous general of the 19th century Sikh Empire. Born into wealth and education, Neki was raised in a liberal, modern environment, somewhat more liberal than traditional standards. Before her marriage, Neki studied interior design at Guru Nanak Dev University, where she fell deeply in love with a law student named Heinous Singh, nicknamed Brandy. Despite her family's strong disapproval of the relationship, Neki kept in touch with Brandy secretly after marrying Sukhwinder. Sukhwinder and Neki were a couple in name only, but not in love. They married traditionally, trying to cultivate a relationship after marriage. In 2000, they had a son, who seemed to be the bond. But in reality, Neki had never let go of the past, and Brandy had never withdrawn from her life. Brandy, the son of a senior supervisor at Guru Nanak Dev College, later became a lawyer in Mohali. When Sukhwinder got into trouble at work, suspended for his involvement in a financial fraud, Brandy secretly moved closer to Neki's house. Socially, Sukhwinder was the legal husband, but in the shadows, Brandy was the man Neki truly loved. The conflict between honor, love, and wealth was the poison that gradually fermented. After their marriage, Sukhwinderjit and Neki lived with their husband's family in a house in Sector 69, Mohali. Although they had a son together, there was no deep affection between them. It was a marriage of honor, one that started with expectation and coercion, not love. Sukhwinder always tries to take care of the family, works hard, and endures his wife's cold and distant temperament. As for Neki, although living in the name of a wife, her mind always turns to the past, where she had a passionate relationship with Brandy, her ex-boyfriend from college. For many years, Neki kept in touch with Brandy secretly. At first, it was just phone calls. Then it gradually turned into clandestine meetings. Brandy, who was now working as a lawyer in Sector 34, just a few kilometers from Sukhwinder's house, quietly moved in close to her ex-lover's house. Sukhwinder began to suspect. Her husband's family also sensed the change, but no one had clear evidence. The situation of living together but being apart became more and more obvious. It culminated in early 2005 when Neki filed for divorce, citing marital discord. The court accepted the divorce petition, but due to complicated legal procedures and lack of cooperation from both parties, the case was delayed for many months. During that time, Neki continued to live in the same house with Sukhwinder, even though the two had practically become strangers. At the same time, Sukhwinder was involved in an internal investigation at the company and was temporarily suspended from work on suspicion of being involved in financial fraud. The financial and emotional pressure made Sukhwinder decide to change his life. He found a job opportunity in Dubai and planned to bring his wife and children to settle there permanently. This was the tipping point. Neki knew that if her husband went to Dubai, she would have to follow him, which meant being separated from Brandy. Meanwhile, if they divorced, she would only receive 1 million rupees in compensation, according to the preliminary judgment of the court. Both options left Neki feeling disadvantaged. So, in the dark, Neki and Brandy began to harbor a dark thought. If Sukhwinder dies, all the property will go to the widow. A savage plan was hatched, and the countdown began. 10 p.m., December 4th, 2005. The night air in the residential area of Sector 69 gradually calmed down. In the old two-story house, Sukhwinder Jit Singh had just finished dinner with his wife. He stood up, put on a thin shirt, and prepared to go out for a walk as usual. "Come with me," Neki said, her voice as light as air. She had never gone with him before. Sukhwinder looked at his wife, slightly surprised, but said nothing. He just nodded and opened the door and walked out. The two of them walked side by side along the deserted road. The pale yellow streetlights cast shadows on the sidewalk. In the distance, a few car headlights passed by. The air was strangely quiet. As the couple turned into a smaller, quieter alley with fewer people, Neki discreetly took out his phone and dialed Brandy's number, who was waiting in a nearby car. "Now." A single word was uttered. A few dozen meters away, the car's headlights turned on. The car crept forward slowly. Brandy sat behind the wheel, her eyes cold. When he was only a few meters away from the couple, he pulled out a pistol hidden in his jacket. In the quiet night, the sound of the gun rang out like a tear. Bang! The first shot hit his neck. Sukhwinder fell to his knees with a groan of pain. Bang! The second shot pierced his chest. Blood gushed out and soaked his shirt. His body fell to the pavement, convulsed for a few seconds, then became still. Neki screamed but did not run to help her husband. When neighbors and family members rushed out at the sound of gunfire, she made up a wild story. "2 people on a motorbike shot him. I didn't have time to do anything." She cried. She trembled. But no one knew that. At that moment, Brandy's car had turned the corner at the end of the road, disappearing into the darkness, without a trace. Or so he thought. Ironically, at that moment, 2 construction workers, Karan and Jaspreet, were driving by on a motorbike and saw everything. Despite their fear, they clearly saw Brandy's license plate and immediately called the police. The police and ambulance arrived within 10 minutes. But it was too late. Sukhwinder Jit Singh was dead at the scene, blood staining the familiar sidewalk. His wife stood there, her hands shaking, her eyes expressionless. An ordinary night had turned into a nightmare with no way out, and the person killed was the very person who once believed she had a home. Mohali police station received an emergency call at 10:13 a.m. from an unknown number. The man's panicked voice rang out, "Someone shot a man near Sector 69 Internal Road. We saw everything. There was even the shooter's license plate number." It was Karan and Jaspreet, 2 construction workers returning late from a nearby construction site. They were not only the ones who reported the incident, they were also the only witnesses. Less than 15 minutes later, the police car and the ambulance arrived. Before their eyes were a man lying motionless on the sidewalk, blood all over his neck and chest. His wife, Neki Nalwa, standing a few feet away looking frightened, repeating the following sentence. "There were 2 people on a motorbike. They suddenly shot my husband and ran away." But what caught the attention of the investigators was, there were no traces of motorbike tires at the scene. And even more strangely, there was a driver's license hidden in the bushes nearby. When collecting evidence, the police discovered a crumpled driver's license lying a few meters away from the body. Its owner, Heinous Singh, address, Amritsar, Punjab. This person was not on the list of neighbors, nor did anyone around know him. So what was he doing at the scene of a murder? Why did he drop his driver's license? The police suspected either this was the killer's negligence, or he intentionally left it to distract attention. Neki was taken to the police station that night. She maintained her statement. "Two people on a motorbike, I don't know who they were." But her attitude was not like that of a wife who had just lost her husband. She didn't cry much, didn't ask about the autopsy results, and didn't ask to see her husband's body. Meanwhile, the victim's father, Mr. Inderjeet Singh, a respected former engineer, immediately went to the police station. When he learned that his son had been shot dead, he did not show any surprise, but quietly said, "I knew this would happen. He has suffered too much." He asked the police to thoroughly investigate Neki's relationship with a man named Brandy. This statement changed the entire direction of the investigation. The forensic team conducted a nighttime search of the crime scene. What they found included 2 9mm bullet casings, located about 1.5 meters apart. No signs of a struggle, no blood from the perpetrator. Himatbir Singh's driver's license found in the bushes near the body. In particular, there were tire marks on the cement floor that had just rolled over, completely contrary to Neki's testimony of 2 people on a motorbike. At the morgue, Sukhwinderjeet's body was thoroughly examined. Conclusions: cause of death: acute blood loss due to a gunshot wound to the carotid artery and a second gunshot wound to the heart. Time of death: approximately 10:11 p.m., just 1 to 2 minutes after being shot. There were no signs of resistance or self-defense, indicating that the victim was attacked from behind. The police set up a special investigation team to trace Neki Nalwa's call history for 5 days around the time of the incident, and they were shocked to discover, within 5 days, before and after the incident, Neki called the same phone number more than 700 times. That number belonged to Himatbir Singh, the person whose name was on the driving license dropped at the scene. Identity: a lawyer, living in Sector 34, Mohali, and especially, he studied in the same college as Neki, had a romantic relationship in the past. Himatbir was first summoned. He denied any involvement and said he had lost his driver's license a long time ago. However, he did not report the loss to any agency. In addition, his phone number also matched the outgoing and incoming calls from Neki's phone. At the same time, Neki was also investigated. Her initial testimony was full of contradictions, and her lies became more and more obvious. Under pressure, she began to panic, constantly changing the story about 2 people on a motorbike. The police checked Neki and Himatbir's bank accounts. They found Brandy had withdrawn money from an ATM card in Neki's name after the incident. When Himatbir was searched, one of Neki's ATM cards was also found in his wallet. All of this suggests, in addition to a romantic relationship, the two shared finances and worked closely together. After 3 rounds of interrogation, both Neki Nalwa and Himatbir Singh confessed to the crime. In a chilling statement, Neki said, "I don't want a divorce because I won't get anything. If he dies, I will have everything." Himatbir, also known as Brandy, said she only wanted money, and Neki promised to give him a large portion of the estate if Sukhwinder died. The gun used in the crime was allegedly supplied by a third man named Paramveer Singh, who was quickly arrested and admitted to supplying Brandy with an unlicensed gun and ammunition just days before the murder. 2006, just a few months after the shocking Mohali murder, the Punjab Criminal Investigation Department completed its files and sent the case to court. The 3 main accused were: 1. Neki Nalwa, the victim's wife, charged with masterminding her husband's murder. 2. Himatbir Singh, Brandy, the mistress, who directly fired the shots. 3. Paramveer Singh, the illegal supplier of firearms. The trial took place at the Mohali District Court, with a packed attendance of the press, the public, and even local politicians. Everyone wanted to know, how could a gentle wife, on paper, become the mastermind of such a brutal murder of her husband? The prosecutor presented a strong chain of evidence. Call records between Neki and Brandy, Over 700 calls in just 5 days. Brandy's driver's license found at the scene. Testimony from 2 witnesses, Karen and Jaspreet, who claimed to have seen Brandy fire a gun from a car. CCTV footage of Brandy's car in the area at the exact time of the murder. Bank statements showing Brandy had withdrawn money from Necky's ATM card after the murder. The murder weapon was traced back to Paramveer Singh's testimony. Throughout the trial, Necky appeared calm and emotionless. She cried only once, not out of remorse, but when the court rejected her bail application. Brandy appeared arrogant and confident, knowing that she had connections with many powerful people. Paramveer, the gun supplier, appeared frightened and quickly confessed, hoping for leniency. After more than 6 years of trial, on June 6, 2012, the Mohali court officially sentenced Necky Nalwa, life imprisonment for conspiracy to murder. Heinous Singh, Brandy, life imprisonment for direct murder. Paramveer Singh, convicted under the Indian Arms Act, released on bail but required to appear periodically. The victim's father, Mr. Inderjeet Singh, burst into tears in court. He said, "I never thought my son would be killed by the person he loved. But at least today I see justice being done." 4 years after the verdict, in September 2016, the public was shocked when a state politician confirmed that he had signed a petition for clemency for Necky Nalwa and Heinous Singh. The reason given: good behavior, no violation of discipline in prison. The incident immediately sparked a wave of public outcry, especially from the victim's mother, Rajinder Kaur, who is now the sole guardian of her orphaned grandchild. She declared to the media, "They killed my son. They robbed my grandchild of his father. How can I live in peace if I see them out there?" Despite several petitions to block the clemency order, the murderous couple were released and have not been recaptured to date. This case is not simply a crime of love, but a clear demonstration of the corruption that smolders in the most sacred relationships. A man who lived honestly, devoted himself to his family, had to pay with his life, just because he trusted the wrong person, loved the wrong person. Behind Sukhwinderjeet's death is the unspoken pain of a child who lost his father, was abandoned by his mother, and now only has the weak but loving arms of his grandmother. While the mastermind was pardoned after a few years in prison on the grounds of good behavior, those who remain, like that son, will have to carry the sentence in their hearts for life. The question is there really justice if the killer can still live freely, while the victim lies forever in a cold grave? There are sentences that are pronounced in court, but there are also more silent sentences, engraved in the memory of a child, in the tears of an old mother, and in the quiet disappointment of an entire society. This is not just a case, but a warning that sometimes the killer does not come from the darkness, but from the person who used to lie next to you every night. Never trade morality and love for temporary temptations, because once you cross the line, the consequences will be something no one can save. Thank you for following the story until the end. If you find this a lesson that needs to be spread, please share the video, subscribe to the channel, and continue to accompany us in the next cases. Goodbye, and see you again.